Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Al24 coming to you live from the capital Algiers, and these are tonight's top stories. Algeria and Tunisia signed 26 bilateral partnership agreements and memorandums of understanding, a bilateral aspiration for a real lead in the path of cooperation and a common desire to push the business community towards a new dynamic. The Fourth UN Committee renews the demand to end colonialism in Western Sahara and calls for intensifying international efforts to decolonize 17 territories registered in the UN regulations, including Sahrawi lands. As the occupation authorities prevent the foreign ministers of 3 European countries from entering the West Bank, more than 1,000 settlers disgrace Al-Aqsa Mosque. And for the first time in US history, the House of Representatives votes in favor of removing its president. Biden calls for accelerating the election of a new Speaker of the House, and Trump accuses the American administration of using justice against him. Hello again and welcome. The Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune and received the Prime Minister of the sisterly Republic of Tunisia, Ahmed Hashani. According to a statement from the presidency, the meeting was attended by the Algerian Prime Minister, Ayman Ben Abdurrahman, Director of the Office of Presidency of the Republic, Nadir Al-Arbawi, the Minister of the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, the Interior Minister, Ibrahim Murad, and the Algerian Ambassador to Tunisia. In his statement following the reception, the Tunisian Prime Minister considered his meeting with President Tebboune an opportunity to learn about ways to strengthen bilateral relations and joint cooperation.
This meeting represented a happy occasion to be informed about President Tebboun's vision to strengthen fraternal relations and cooperation between Tunisia and Algeria, and about his positions on a number of regional and international issues of common interest.
In the same visit, Algeria and Tunisia have signed 26 bilateral agreements in several sectors during the 22nd session of the Algerian-Tunisian Grand Joint Cooperation, which conclude its proceedings in Algiers today, Wednesday. The agreements include the sectors of energy, trade, transport, tourism, and industry, among others. During the signing ceremony, Algerian Prime Minister Ayman Ben Abdurrahman said that the two sides agreed to enhance coordination, intensify communication, and ensure the regular holding of bilateral mechanisms for periodic assessment and evaluation of cooperation and projects between the two countries.
كان لقاؤنا اليوم فرصة للتأكيد مجددا.
Our meeting today is yet another opportunity to stress the common will that pushes us to move forward towards improving and diversifying bilateral cooperation by completing ongoing projects and identifying other partnership and investment prospects based on a roadmap that sets our common priorities and goals. We also agreed on the need to work together to enhance coordination, intensify communication between the two sides, and ensure the regular holding of bilateral mechanisms for periodic assessment and evaluation of cooperation and projects in a bid to overcome challenges and lift all obstacles hindering the development of trade and investment exchanges, and implement cooperation in all fields of endeavor. In addition to the common challenges that require from us, more than ever before, the pooling of efforts, the sharing of ideas, and coordinating steps and politics to efficiently face up to these challenges.
لمواجهة هذه التحديات بفعالية ونجاح.
Also, Mr. Ayman Ben Abdurrahman stressed that Algeria is looking forward to a real leap in Algerian-Tunisian partnership to achieve the economic integration and development that the two countries aspire to.
إننا نتطلع وكلنا ثقة
We aspire in full confidence that this important economic event that comes in a new context whereby Algeria has completed all the reforms related to business environment will constitute a leap forward in Algerian-Tunisian relations to achieve the economic integration and development that the two brotherly countries and peoples aspire to.
البلدان والشعبين الشقيقين.
For his part, the Tunisian Prime Minister praised the level of understanding that has been reached, stressing that agreements signed will contribute to further consolidate relations between Algeria and Tunisia.
ستسهم بلا شك في مزيد
They will undoubtedly contribute to further strengthening and diversifying bilateral relations between Algeria and Tunisia. The Commission culminated in several important recommendations to further boost bilateral cooperation at various levels, and which we will endeavor to implement as part of our keenness to enrich cooperation relations between Tunisia and Algeria. We hope that all agreements and recommendations will contribute to achieving the expected qualitative leap in the level of Tunisian-Algerian relations.
التونسية والجزائرية.
Economic cooperation between Algeria and Tunisia opens its doors wide to businessmen and investors from both countries based on a common will that will give a new dynamic to the business community, of which he expressed the common will to increase the volume of trade exchange on one hand and to implement new direct investment projects on the other hand.
Algerian-Tunisian economic relations are progressing towards broader and more promising horizons, with the two countries intending to raise the volume of their trade exchanges in the coming months to higher levels and expanding them to include non-conventional fields, as part of a common will to conclude new partnerships between the economic operators of the two countries.
Tunisia
is considered Algeria's most important partner in Africa, and we can develop this partnership more and better. This encounter will allow us to study the means and ways that will enable us to enhance trade exchanges to a higher level, regardless of their current status. We also hope to launch with you a new dynamic to promote exports between our two countries outside of hydrocarbons.
The strength of economic relations between Algeria and Tunisia is not only reflected in the volume of bilateral trade exchanges, but is also highlighted by direct investment projects between the two countries, driven by a great desire to achieve more investments, especially in light of the many incentives provided for by the Algerian new investment law.
We Tunisians have been very eager to come and invest in Algeria since many years, especially with those incentives, which are, of course, a great motivation. Today, we have more than 80 eminent businessmen participating in this event, and this is evidence of Tunisia's desire to invest in Algeria. With these laws and decisions put in place, exchange will be easier, and they will be a new link in the relations between Algeria and Tunisia that we are constantly looking to further strengthening them.
Trade exchanges between Algeria and Tunisia increased by 54% during the first 7 months of the current year, according to official statistics, while direct investment projects amounted to 42 projects worth 14 billion Algerian dinars, mainly in the sectors of agriculture, construction, industry, and services.
In a different matter now, on Wednesday, Algerian Foreign Minister Mr. Ahmed Attaf had talks with his South Sudanese counterpart James Morgan Pitia, who is on a visit to Algeria as part of his participation in the high-level event Kimax Africa 2023. According to the Foreign Ministry statement, the talks focus on ways and prospects for reviving bilateral cooperation in the political, diplomatic and economic fields, in addition to the latest developments in the situation at the continental level and in the Sahel-Sahara region in particular, the security and political situation in the Republic of Sudan, and the progress made in implementing the refreshed peace agreement.
I would like to highly praise the outcomes of the rich talks that brought us together on this good occasion. which sincerely reflected our common will to reactivate cooperation mechanisms between our two brotherly countries and to give them new dynamic, to include priority fields and sectors at the current stage. These talks also allowed to be reassured about the situation of our brothers in the Republic of South Sudan, and to take stock of the progress made in the implementation of the activated agreement for the settlement of the crisis in this brotherly country, which Algeria strongly supports and closely follows its development.
وتتابع تطوراته عن كثب.
The Algerian Foreign Minister emphasized Algeria's commitment to its loyalty to these principles and to its work to support African issues.
أكدنا بهذه المناسبة تمسك بلدينا.
On this occasion, we affirmed our two countries' adherence to the values and principles of the African unity, including the right of peoples to self-determination, while calling on our continental organization to intensify its efforts to position itself as a pivotal and main actor in the efforts aimed at crystallizing African solutions to the problems of our continent. Algeria, which is preparing to occupy a non-permanent seat in the Security Council, will always remain loyal to these values and these principles, and will not hesitate to support its brothers in South Sudan and in the rest of the countries of the continent, and that our country will work sincerely to be the voice of Africa in the Council.
بقية دول القارة.
On the other side, James Morgan Pietier, the Foreign Minister of South Sudan, applauded Algeria's election as a non-permanent member of Security Council and emphasized the importance of having strong African representation in international organizations.
Now this is the second day I'm here. We came to attend the conference of the organization which is here to prevent the use of the chemical weapons in the world. My presence here in Algeria, I felt that it was so important for us to get together with my brother, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Algeria, to accomplish one of the most important milestones in improving our bilateral relations between South Sudan and Algeria.
Algerian Foreign Ministry officially denied the statement falsely attributed to it regarding Mali. In a statement, the ministry clarified that a document circulating with its unproven position was baseless and emphasized its non-involvement with this misrepresentation expression. The ministry expressed its concern about the potential harm that such a fake document could cause. Algeria and the European Union convened in Brussels with the presence of Algeria's Minister of Energy, Mohamed Arqab. The meeting is said to address the strategic energy partnership between Algeria and the European Union, examine areas of mutual interest, and assess its progress in energy collaboration, particularly in the fields of natural gas supply to Europe, electrical interconnection, renewable energies, hydrogen development, and energy efficiency. The Algerian Minister of Housing, Tarek Belarbi, discussed with officials of the housing and shelter company in Africa Algeria's experience in the fields of housing. In a statement during a press conference on the sidelines of the company's extraordinary General Assembly held in Algeria, Belarbi noted Algeria's ambition to promote sustainable development on the continent, emphasizing its desire to build strong relations with the member countries of Shelter Africa.
كان لقاء جد مثمر وإن كان لنا نتحدث على
The meeting was very fruitful, in which we discussed the Algerian experience in the housing sector, and we are ready to share it with our African brothers. Algeria's experience in the housing sector is at a high level. In 2022, 400,000 housing units and 265 public equipment were distributed. There is a demand to share the Algerian experience in all forms of the housing sector at the African level.
مع الوزارات السكن على المستوى الإفريقي.
For his part, Thierno Habib Han, CEO of Shelter Afrique, said that Algeria's experience in the housing sector was motivating for African nations, particularly since it was able to build sizable residential complexes using locally produced building materials.
We spoke with Mr. Minister, the board of directors, chairwoman of Shelter Company, and me, the CEO, about opportunities for cooperation and partnership with Algeria. Our company includes 44 members and shareholders. Algeria plays an important role in the field. Therefore, we studied the possibility of cooperation with Algeria so that we would know to what extent the housing sector can be developed in Algeria and from there to all of Africa. Algeria has advantages and competitiveness in the field of building materials industry. It is good that housing here is built with locally produced materials. This is very important for African countries to embody the success story so that the industry develops, creates jobs, and reduces poverty rates.
In Africa, still, the Libyan House of Representatives announced the issuance on Wednesday of the law on electing the head of state and the law on electing the National Assembly. A statement by the Council's media office said that the law on electing the head the head of state and the law on electing the National Assembly were issued in accordance with the 30th Constitutional Amendment and in accordance with what was approved by the 6+6 Joint Committee with the State Supreme Council. The fourth Committee on Special Political Issues and Decolonization, affiliated with the United Nations General Assembly, whose sessions continue in New York, affirmed that decolonization in the world is one of the greatest priorities of the UN. It called for intensifying international efforts to decolonize the 17 territories registered on it, including Western Sahara. Extremist settlers breached Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied Palestinian territories during Jewish holidays, and a government minister's involvement in prisoner abuse sparked outrage.
On the fifth day of Jewish holidays, over 1,000 extremist settlers, under the protection of occupation forces, once again violated the sanctity of Al-Aqsa Mosque, where they performed their Talmudic rituals. The Al-Quds Endowment Department confirmed the breach through Al-Magharibiya Gate. This incursion also extended into the Old City, where hundreds of settlers roamed its historic streets with the close supervision of occupation soldiers, bluntly violating the city's heritage. The Ministry of Al-Quds Affairs strongly denounced these actions as an act of war, emphasizing that Zionist extremist groups exploit Jewish holidays to desecrate Al-Aqsa Mosque. They aim to alter the historic and legal status of the mosque.
Right-wing Zionist extremist groups, supported by the occupation government, use Jewish holidays as a cover to desecrate Al-Aqsa Mosque through raids and the performance of Talmudic rituals, in an attempt to create a new reality in the mosque that undermines the existing historical and legal status of the mosque from its foundation.
As the assault on Al-Aqsa unfolded, extremist Itamar Ben-Gvir stormed the prison and oversaw the abuse of Palestinian prisoners. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned this action, describing it as a reflection of colonialist, bullying, and banditry mentalities, elevating it to the level of state terrorism.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates condemns in the strongest terms the storming of the Zionist Gilboa prison by the fascist minister Ben-Gvir at the head of the repressive forces, and his personal supervision of the operations of repression, abuse, and assault on detainees. It is a reflection of the mentality of colonialism, bullying, and banditry rising to the level of state terrorism.
As attacks on Palestinians and their holy sites continue, and the occupied territories remain under siege, preventing foreign ministers from Ireland, Norway, and Britain from entering Area C in the West Bank has isolated the outside world from the ongoing struggles faced by the Palestinians.
In Europe now, the Russian Foreign Ministry revealed that it held discussions with Washington and Brussels concerning the Nagorno-Karabakh region situation before Azerbaijan's recent military operation. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova disclosed that United States and the European Union initiated these discussions primarily for exchanging viewpoints on the situation, dismissing them as provocations despite media descriptions.
The United States and the European Union initiated contact with us, expressing their interest in arranging a meeting. They specifically sought to foster dialogue and facilitate the exchange of perspective among all parties involved regarding the situation. This was the sole intent behind the meeting. Any portrayal in Western media as a provocation contradicts the genuine purpose of the US-EU initiative, which was to promote dialogue.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said Wednesday that UK has led the world in providing military support to Ukraine as he addressed his own Conservative Party annual conference in Manchester, saying that he is not afraid to make tough choices and big decisions that will deliver long-term success rather than short-term advantage. Likewise, United States President Joe Biden spoke with the leaders of allied countries, the European Union and the NATO military alliance on Tuesday about continuing coordinated support for Ukraine. As White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said, supporting Ukraine strengthens our national security.
I say this to our allies. If we give President Zelensky the tools, the Ukrainians will finish the job. Slava Ukraini!
The President reaffirmed the strong commitment of the United States to supporting Ukraine as it defends itself for as long as it takes, as did every other leader on the call. The leaders discussed efforts to continue providing Ukraine with the ammunition and the weapon systems that it needs to defend its territory.
In US now, the House of Representatives was in chaos Wednesday as Republicans began the battle to determine who will become the next House Speaker after Kevin McCarthy, who was ousted from the speakership, marking the first such removal in congressional history.
Subject to the call of the chair.
The House of Representatives vote to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker marked the first time in American history that a Speaker has been removed from office. It was a strong criticism of McCarthy's leadership and a worsening of the internal struggle within the Republican Party and a red flag for the health of American democracy, experts suggest. After the right-wing effort to unseat fellow Republican Kevin McCarthy as Speaker failed, the congressional body entered uncharted territory. This prompted Joe Biden to call on political leaders to work on a new spending plan before a hastily approved short-term measure expires in few weeks.
The House will now reorganize and select a new Speaker. I know it's going to take some time, but I remind everyone, we have a lot of work to do, and the American people expect us to get it done. The argument we reached was all about what comes next, but we had an agreement. We reached an agreement over the weekend. Funds for government, only another 40 days. We cannot and should not again be faced with an 11th hour decision of brinksmanship that threatens to shut down the government.
Republicans are scrambling to find a strong candidate because McCarthy has not backed a potential successor unless an unlikely and unprecedented Kansas Speaker who receives support from both parties emerges.
Well, he doesn't have my support anymore, and he doesn't have the support of a requisite number of Republicans to continue as the Republican Speaker. Now, he may continue as the House Speaker, and he may continue as a Speaker of the Democrats and some sort of uniparty coalition, but he is not going to be a Speaker in power as a consequence of Republican votes based on the number of people who are going to be with me.
Only 3 days had passed before the now ex-Speaker was obliged to use Democratic votes to prevent a disastrous government shutdown that his own party's absolutism was about to precipitate.
Saturday, I took a risk for the American public. Regardless what anybody says, No one knew whether that would pass. The Democrats didn't want that bill. Yes, they pull a fire alarm. Yes, they do their conga line. Yes, they wanted to delay. But it was all for the American people. I could not look the troops in the eye and say I would not pay them. I think today was a political decision by the Democrats. And I think the things they have done in the past hurt the institution. When they just started removing people from committee. And they just started doing the other things. And my fear is the institution fell today.
Saturday's decision reinforced McCarthy's original mistake of Blinken earlier this year when House GOP hardliners threatened to trigger a calamitous default on America's debts, which, according to experts, might have wrecked the economy and sparked terror throughout the world.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump accused the U.S. government of manipulating justice against him as he remains a leading candidate for the upcoming presidential elections, contrasting his position with current President Joe Biden. Trump, speaking from a New York courtroom, allegedly said that he's denied a fair trial, insinuating that the American government in Washington orchestrates actions against him. And to this point, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us in this late hour. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. And all I can say at the end, take care of yourself and good night.